What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. Time for our LSU schedule preview and projected record video. Keep in mind, this is not an official prediction. It's simply a projection based off of the schedule, how tough the schedule is, and then a formula that we use based off of how good we roughly expect each team to be. Before we get to this 2024 schedule, let's look back at 2023. Here is the schedule from last season. You can see Florida State, of course, in the non-conference. That was a huge game. LSU lost to Ole Miss, lost to Alabama on the road. Fairly predictable. You lose your two toughest road games. Although they did beat Missouri, so that was a really good road win for them. They took care of business in all their home games. And then again, you had Florida State in the non-conference. Pretty tough game there. Wound up, I guess really that game kept LSU out of a New Year's Six bowl. If they had won that game, they probably would have been ahead of Missouri since they beat them head-to-head, and we would have seen LSU in a New Year's Six bowl. But anyways, a tough schedule with Florida State in the non-conference, and then having to play Missouri out of the East, and then also they played out of the East Florida, who they play every year. But no more East and West in the SEC. This is the schedule for 2024. Before we go game by game, let's break it down. We'll start with the non-conference. They play USC in Las Vegas. That'll be a fun matchup there. Nicholls. Also, they play UCLA. So all right, this is going to sound weird, but two Big Ten teams, not two Pac-12 teams, two Big Ten teams from the state of California. And then they'll play South Alabama. So, two pretty easy games and two pretty tough games. Very respectable non-conference schedule. Their home schedule looks like this: Nicholls, UCLA, South Alabama, and then Ole Miss, Alabama, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. So remember, Ole Miss and Alabama are the two teams that beat them in the SEC last year. This year, they'll play those two teams again, and they'll play them at home. So a revenge opportunity, even those two. Vanderbilt, you always like playing them, obviously, and then Oklahoma at home. So three big games: Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma, all at home. That is good news there for LSU. And then you look at the road schedule. USC, not a road game. I mean, technically, it's a neutral site game. Then they get South Carolina and Arkansas on the road. You don't mind playing those teams really on the road because LSU should be much better than those teams. And then Texas A&M, that'll be a tough one on the road. And then Florida also on there, which is a lot of times that's a pretty tough game there. But all in all, maybe you switch Texas A&M and Vanderbilt, and then you get your four toughest games at home and your four easiest games on the road, and then it would be perfect. But overall, yes, the home and away does work out pretty well for LSU. They will open up on Sunday, September the 1st. That'll be a Sunday game there, just like they played last year on Sunday. They'll play USC in Las Vegas. That is going to be a big game, huge non-conference matchup there. Then they play Nicholls after that on the 7th, and then it's South Carolina on the 14th, first road game. First true road game, and then UCLA on the 21st, and South Alabama on the 28th. So you look at their month of September, you've got USC and UCLA, the non-conference, and you've also got a road game in the SEC. So I mean, that's a pretty tough start to the season there compared to a lot of teams. But all games that LSU has a good shot to win. And then you get a bye week after South Alabama before Ole Miss. Again, a revenge game. That's going to be a huge game there. Ole Miss expected to be really good again. And then they'll play Arkansas on the road on the 19th. Back-to-back road games. After Arkansas, they go on the road to face Texas A&M. That could be a really, really tricky game there. They're not playing them at the end of the season. Instead, they play them at the end of October. And I hate how they're doing LSU and Oklahoma at the end of the season. I said this in another video. I really felt like they should have done LSU versus Arkansas at the end of the season and then put Oklahoma versus Missouri. But they didn't go that route. I don't know why. But anyways, you got back-to-back road games there before a bye week. Then you get Alabama at home. And then it's on the road at Florida. Back home for Vanderbilt and home in the finale against Oklahoma. So you like the bye weeks. They're before Ole Miss and Alabama, two really big games. And then as far as opponents, those are the two toughest opponents they'll play. I think that Texas A&M game, though, could be a little bit, could be maybe tougher because it's on the road and it's after a road game against Arkansas. And so that one could be maybe their toughest game. But again, you got back-to-back road games there, Arkansas and Texas A&M. But with the bye weeks, you don't have any real tough stretches. You've got back-to-back out South Carolina and UCLA. You've got the toughest stretch is probably going to be Ole Miss at Arkansas and at Texas A&M. And especially with Ole Miss and Texas A&M, those are going to be tough games. So a tough stretch there. And then closing things out with Alabama, Vanderbilt, Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. Those final four games will be pretty tough. But all in all, this schedule is not horrible. It's a tough schedule, but it's not the worst. And a lot of big games at home, I think that's going to give LSU a chance to possibly have a really good year in 2024. Here were some of those projections from 2023. You can see a 9-3 record in the regular season. Our projection had them at 10-2. I predicted this team to go 11-1. I missed the Florida State game. I thought they were going to win that game, and also thought they'd beat Ole Miss. And so missed 2 games there with my official prediction. And again, 9-3. A bit of a disappointing year for this team, really. Athlon had them at 10-2. The over/under was at 9.5. So yeah, they were expected to be 9-3 or 10-2 roughly. But again, I think 9-3 was a bit of a disappointment, really, just because of that defense. They were so bad on defense. The offense was good enough to go undefeated, but the defense, not so much. So again, here's that schedule, and this is the scale that we use. So if it's less than 20 or over 80, those are games where I think it's almost a guaranteed win. 20-29, 71-80, those are games where I think the spread is going to be double digits, a couple touchdowns, somewhere in that range. 30-39, 61-70 games where I think the spread will be 6, 7, 8, 9 points. And then 40-60 are games where the spread will be lower than that. Really games that can go either way. But I said it's in all the videos. It's really not about the spread. It's about the tier system formula that I use. And so we start with the easy wins. You've got Nicholls, South Alabama, and Vanderbilt. All of these games should be easy wins for LSU. I'm counting LSU as, I put them in tier number 2 if you're wondering. So they're a tier 2 team. And again, those are 3 games that they should win. They should be favored by 17, 18 plus points in all 3 of them. And so you got 3 easy wins, and then you've got UCLA, really the only game in the blue here where I think LSU is going to be favored by a couple touchdowns. UCLA just lost their coach. They weren't great last year. I mean, it's at LSU. I feel like this is a game that LSU should be able to take care of business in. And again, we should be favored by a couple of touchdowns. And then you got a bunch of games where I think they're going to be favored by, but not by a lot, only by 7, 8, 9 points maybe. USC, South Carolina, and Arkansas. So South Carolina, Arkansas, and Florida, the only reason these games are in the purple and not in the blue is because they're on the road. And it's tough to win in the SEC. And home and away is definitely calculated into this formula. So those are 3 games that they will be favored in, but it wouldn't be a shock if they slip up somewhere and get upset. Upsets happen all the time. And again, it's tough to win on the road in the SEC. USC, that's an interesting one there. I just don't know how good USC is going to be. A lot of new faces on offense. I think LSU is probably the better team there. I've got USC as a tier 3 team. And then Oklahoma, that one is going to be a good one there. These 2 teams are, kind of figured in the same tier, but LSU playing at home, you feel like they're probably going to be favored by about a touchdown in that game. And so that leaves Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Alabama. These are the 50-50 games, the games that I think could go either way. Ole Miss at home, Alabama at home. So you get 2 of those games at home. And again, you could argue Oklahoma being in this group as well. But if you did, then Oklahoma, you add them in there. That's 3 of your 4 biggest games at home. So I really like the home games here for LSU. And the projection, again, if you do the calculations here and you split these games up, the projection for LSU comes out to 9-3. So it was, it was closer to 8-4 than 10-2, but a 9-3 projection. Let's say they lose one of these or 2 of these 50-50 games, and then odds are they're probably going to lose another game, lose one of these games in the purple as well. When you've got that many games in that percentage, odds are you're going to lose 1 or even 2 of them, and they could go. They could go 2-1 in the 50-50 games and lose 2 of these games in the purple. So there are a lot of different ways you could get to 9-3, but it's a pretty tough schedule. Again, it's not horrible. I like how they have a lot of these big games at home, and it's tough to win at LSU. And if they can win those games, you lose to Texas A&M on the road. Let's just say they lose that game and take care of business at home and win these games in the purple. They could go 11-1. They could be right there in the SEC championship. We'll see how good this team is, but the schedule definitely gives them a chance, and that's why that projection is fairly high to have so many tough games on the schedule. It's still a 9-3 projection, which is a pretty good projection. That's the same as Alabama and Georgia. So LSU in pretty good shape with their schedule and projected to go about 9-3 this season. I would love to get your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think they'll do better or worse? Just your early thoughts. How would you project this LSU team to do in 2024? Let me know down in the comments below.